Susie Hegemeyer has lived in Upland for 10 years and knows everyone on her block, including her newest neighbor, a senior with cash to burn named Jack Irwin. Susan likes Jack, but becomes concerned when two young women named Marcia Johnson and Judy Gellert move in with the old man.
And eventually they started calling him Dad. And it didn't take very long for them to infiltrate his lifestyle. One morning he called me over, I was leaving for work, and he said, I want to tell you something. And I said, what? He goes, do you know the girls and I are going to be a family, and we all went to an attorney, and I put him on my trust.
Irwin has already sold the girls a cabin he owned in Mount Baldy, some 10 miles away. Now it appears the two women are in line to inherit everything. 1 week later, he disappears from Upland, and Susan Hegemeyer confronts the girls.
Dad took a trip. I said, what do you mean he took a trip? He took a trip. He wanted to go to Seattle. And I said, why Seattle? Oh, because he wanted to see the Space Needle. And I said, well, how long is he going to be? Oh, I don't know. Where is he going to stay? I don't know.
And I told her, I said, Jack would never do that. It's just not his personality.
2 weeks later, Jack Irwin is still nowhere to be found. Johnson and Gellert now split their time between Jack's home in Upland and his former cabin in Mount Baldy. The girls are the talk of the town up the mountain. Their sudden change in lifestyle does not escape notice.
All of a sudden they appear with all these marvelous vehicles. And the blonde one would drive the white Corvette. The brown-haired one had a Jeep. They had the biggest Ford-made SUV, Excursion, yeah. And then they had this bigger motorhome.
Within a few weeks, Irwin's friends are ready to go to the police.
And I happened to be at a luncheon with the district attorney at that time, Dennis Stout, and I had gotten information that he had just started up an elder abuse unit and had assigned several DA investigators to that unit.
DA investigator Maury Weiss is assigned the case. He believes Irwin has met with foul play, but has no body to prove up his theory. With no other leads to follow, Weiss takes a look at Irwin's bank account, which he discovers is emptying rapidly.
They had access to his bank account. They went to the bank. They were put on a signature card so they could withdraw money. Shortly after that time, Jack was never seen again.
As a trustee on Jack's account, Marcia Johnson has the authority to write and cash checks, almost all of them made out to herself.
The money was gone before the end of the year, about $77,000.
Weiss believes Johnson to be a con artist and perhaps a killer. It's a feeling that blossoms into outright suspicion when the investigator learns about a fire on Mount Baldy.
I was standing with my friend, and she yelled, Jack's cabin is on fire.
Weiss suspects that the fire was set deliberately, not, however, to dispose of Jack Irwin's remains.
I thought it was mainly for the insurance money. Marcia had filed a claim for a burglary about a month prior to the fire and got some money that way. And it was just another way to get some more money, I believe.
In talking with the insurance investigator, Weiss gleans a juicy bit of gossip, not about the fire, but about Marcia Johnson's personal life. She is suing her former therapist for alleged sexual abuse.
She'd indicated that she had a sexual relationship with the therapist. And due to the statements Marcia made in regards to that, is why she ended up filing the suit.
If there are skeletons in Marcia Johnson's closet, Weiss figures they might surface in a contentious lawsuit. On August 28, 2002, he obtains depositions from the suit and begins to read.
As I started reading through the deposition, I realized that Ms. Martin had indicated under oath that Marcia Johnson admitted to her that she had killed Jack and dismembered his body and spread it around Mount Baldy.
According to the therapist's deposition, Marcia told her, "I shot him in the back of the neck." The therapist then said under oath, "I don't know if it was a saw or an axe, but she said she cut him up. She cut him into pieces."
That was the first information we had where Marcia had made any comments to anyone that we were aware of regarding the murder of Jack Irwin.
The lawyers involved in the civil suit never contacted police, and so a possible confession to murder was buried.
Two facts in this case we had to establish. Was this privileged communication between Marcia and a therapist, doctor-patient relationship, or was it between friends or lovers?
She said, "Debbie, I did kill Jack," and then the rest is in that deposition.
On September 30th, Elvert sits down with the therapist, who is more than willing to talk in detail about Johnson's alleged confession.
So I was sitting on the sofa, and she came over to the sofa, and she said something to the effect of, "Debbie, I did kill Jack." And I giggled because I thought she was teasing. I thought she was kidding.
And she established clearly that they were no longer doctor-patient relationship, and that she had stopped by, and it was during that evening that Marcia admitted to Deborah Martin that she in fact killed Jack Irwin.
She said that he was helping her either chop wood or move wood, and he turned around and called her dirty girl. And that made her very angry. So she went into the bathroom, and she said she sat there and said something like, "I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him." And she went and got the gun, and she walked outside, and his back was toward her, and she said she aimed, put the gun up, and I shot him. She sawed him into pieces, took his body parts and sawed him into pieces and wrapped him in, and I forget if she said saran wrap or tinfoil, but I believe she said saran wrap type thing, plastic wrap.
That's when Bobby made the comment that he felt a wiretap would be a good way to go with it.
The main thing is you cannot be charged with anything by association, Judy. Just because you knew me and I did things does not mean that you are going to get in any kind of trouble.
The tone of voice escalated. You could tell the panic was coming on them. They knew at that point that basically the case was made.
Marcia and Judy are scared and beginning to make mistakes. Just a few hours after the expedition is confiscated, Marcia puts a call in to her aunt.
Hello? Montani?
Yeah, hi Marcia.
Hi, listen.
What? Are you okay?
No. It's all over. Everything's over. I just want you to do me one favor.
Everything's over. What do you mean?
I'm turning myself in for killing Jack.
Oh no.
They took the expedition. They confiscated that. They already know. They're building their case. It's over. Judy's been getting dragged through the mud, so I'm going to turn myself in.
Oh, no.
But you need to be there for Judy because she's going to need all the support she can get.
Marcia, we let her stay out for a few days after those initial statements regarding her involvement in the murder, until she went to a motel in El Cajon and decided to hide out there. And at that point, we felt that she might flee, and so we went down and effected an arrest at that point.
I don't know. I don't know what happened to me, but I shot him. Shot him in the back of the head. I think it hit him back here somewhere. I know it did. And I'm not a gunsmith or anything like that, but apparently I'm a pretty good shot. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? All of a sudden, I see his hand go up, and there was blood just squirting out. I mean, squirting out. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So there was a chainsaw underneath the house. And this is really, really hard. I cut his head off. And then I cut both of his hands off with chainsaw, and then I cut both of his feet off. But when I cut his head off, I didn't realize how heavy a head is. it's really heavy.
That's pretty telling. If you experience that, you'll remember that. And she did.
I started disposing of his body. You know, I put his torso in one area, and his head, I just, you know, I took it out of the bag and I just watched it roll down his mouth. It's like, oh my God, I can't even believe this. I can't even believe this.
The interview wraps up at 4 a.m. with a promise from Marcia to take the detectives to the place on Mount Baldy where she disposed of Jack's body. When morning comes, however, Marcia has had a change of heart. Even without a body, Marcia's confession is enough to bring a charge of first-degree murder, and a trial date is set. Since Jack Irwin first disappeared, Johnson siphoned more than $100,000 from the senior's bank account, buying a Corvette, a Jeep, and an RV. As for Judy Gellert, cold case detectives cannot prove that she took part in the planning or execution of the murder.
She was a lot more culpable than I think the case proved against her.
Gellert pleads guilty to receiving stolen property and is sentenced to 5 years of probation.
I think they're the worst of all the culture we have out there of people preying on the innocent, so to speak. Here you have this elderly man that took them in off the street, and they repaid him by killing him and stealing everything he owned.